Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Urban Farmer Podcast. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Now let's jump right into it. It's a flashback, The Urban Farmer, as originally recorded 10 years ago with myself and farmer Curtis Stone. Welcome to the Urban Farmer, week 22. 80 pounds, 80 pounds, 80 pounds. There's 80 pounds of carrots on the order sheet. I don't think I have 80 pounds of carrots this week. I better check the walk-in. Yep, I for sure don't have 80 pounds. I might have 60. Damn. Sound familiar? If you're a farmer who's selling vegetable crops to customers on a regular basis, then it's inevitable that at some point over a 30-week season that you'll be short on product. That's just how it is. Crops fail, production comes in less than expected, insect issues happen, and there's also increased demand. All of these issues can lead to situations where you have more orders than you have product to deliver. In those cases, what do? You only have two choices. You can either cut the orders back and short customers, or you can go outside your farm to source the product. The first option, cutting orders back and shorting customers, isn't really the best option. It might be the only option from time to time, but it's not ideal. Ideally, you want to make sure that your customers are getting all of the product that they want to get from you. If they order 50 pounds of braising greens, then you want to be able to deliver 50 pounds of braising greens. You want to keep your customers happy. Giving them 50% of the product that they're asking for and shorting them product isn't a great way to do that. You need to get them the product that they want. You need to fill their order or they'll go somewhere else to get that product. And that shouldn't be surprising. Think about it from their end. They have customers too, and they aren't going to turn customers away if they don't have to. They need to put food on the table. And in order to do that, you need to put food into their walk-in. But that's the problem. You're short product. So what do? You go outside your farm to another farmer to source the product that you need for your customer and make up for the short. You may be thinking, well, why would another farmer want to sell to you? After all, aren't they competition? Yes and no. Just like you, they need to move their product and sell it. And a sale is a sale. And if they're long product and have too much of it, then they have a problem. And your problem can solve their problem. It's a win-win. Especially in the middle of summer when farmers markets get crowded.
I think we've got like 50 farmers at our farmers market or something. It's ridiculous. It's just, there's so much money being spread around that people aren't doing huge days. For them, it's a guaranteed sale to sell it to me, even if, they're knocking down 25% or something like that to sell it to me, but they'll sell it in one shot and it's gone. They don't need to package it or anything.
The beauty of business. Buying extra product off of other farmers creates a win-win-win. You fill your orders, you make the customer happy, and the other farmer moves product that they might have not otherwise sold. And they do it in a very efficient way. Some of you might be thinking, why wouldn't that other farmer just sell the product directly to the end customer? Why do they need to go through you? After all, if they went directly to the end customer, they could get a bigger margin. That's true, and they could. But odds are, they can't sell that product directly to the end customer that you're selling the product to because they don't have the relationship with that customer that you have. And furthermore, they have their own customers that they're dealing with, and adding another customer to the list isn't always as easy as it sounds. So from their point of view, if they can move some product throughout the season through another farmer, then they do it. It's easy. Remember, there's an ebb and flow to the farming season with respect to product and demand for each farm. Farmers go long and short products at times throughout the season. It isn't always easy to tie together that prediction of demand and production. So plan as best as you can and fill in the gaps accordingly, keeping your customers happy. That's the ultimate goal here. Keep your customers happy. Remember, farmers are in the people business, the relationship business, not the vegetable business. Don't forget that. There's a lot of value in those relationships, and without them, you're just a grower, not a farmer. If you're a farmer that's built up a lot of relationships with chefs, then you have an advantage that other farmers might not have. Potentially big dollar sales that move a lot of product in one shot. But those relationships don't happen overnight. And part of the way that those relationships are built is through good customer service. Doing what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, and making sure that you deliver the best product that you can. To make sure that you're actually doing that, you need to constantly ask for feedback from the customer.
So you want to create an atmosphere where you are always welcoming criticism, always welcoming and thanking them for criticizing your product, criticizing anything. You know, anytime somebody comes in with a concern, hey, you know, the delivery times aren't really working out, or hey, the price on this is not really that great, or you know, the product wasn't that great, or whatever it is, you welcome that with enthusiasm and you don't create an air of defensiveness.
Soliciting feedback helps. It helps you deliver a better product in a better way. It helps you deliver what the customer actually wants. And you may think you know what the customer wants, but unless you ask, you might not actually know. So ask away and strive to consistently get better and better over time. And hopefully, if you can do that, then you will have customers for a very long time.
I'm in it for the long game, right? Like, if I got a new customer that's going to spend $1,000 a month or $1,000 a week, I want that customer for the next 10 years. I want that customer as long as I'm in business. To be a tightwad on some stupid little mistake, you know, they complain about something, even if you thought that they were wrong. And, you know, that's where this whole customer is always right kind of thing comes from, is it's not about just them being right for the sake of them being right. It's them being right because that helps you.
That's what this episode is about. Being a better provider to your customers. In this episode, we dig deep into sourcing products from other farmers, breaking into new markets, working with chefs, and soliciting feedback the right way. It's currently August 4th, 2015, and the inevitable has happened. Curtis is short product, and he's having to source those products from other farmers to keep his restaurant customers happy.
Yeah, it's something I've done in the past a little bit, but I never really got too into it. This season, it just kind of occurred to me more that I have so many market channels, and I'm a person that really enjoys customer service and sales, at least from my from my farm's end. Customer service, selling televisions or something like that, forget about it. But and I've just realized more and more that a lot of farmers don't enjoy customer service. They don't enjoy sales. A lot of farmers just want to farm, and so and that's not to say that the farmers that I'm buying stuff from are those people, but it's just, you know, I have all these channels, and I've had a number of weeks where I've been short on things, partly from some production stuff on my end, but mostly just because of the demand. That I've just, you know, it's like, well, why not just keep my customers happy and just find product for them? Because even to go and say, hey, go and buy it from this other farmer, that's just so much extra work for them. Whereas they know me as the channel, I can buy product from a farmer, give them a really good price for it, mark it up a little bit to kind of cover my time and my costs, and keep everybody happy and kind of spread the wealth around a little bit. I like the idea of it, and it's worked quite well. So I've just kind of been doing that because it just seems to make sense, and so it's something I've been doing for a number of weeks now, actually.
How do you deal with the quality of the product that they're producing. You probably have certain standards when you grow veg that you want to make sure, okay, I only want this quality going to the restaurant. So how do you pass that same quality over to the person you're sourcing from?
I'm only buying from farmers that I trust, that I know are going to be giving me quality. Having said that, I'm not sourcing greens because, frankly, I don't think anybody has their greens that are as good as mine in town that I've seen. So I'm not sourcing things like that. I'm sourcing stuff like beets and carrots and radishes. Things that are a little bit easier, like there's not as much variables. Like to buy greens, well, my customers really know my greens. They know the style and what's in them, and I do them a certain way. There's too much variability to buy that from another farmer, so I'm not sourcing that kind of product yet. But the quality control is there because I'm working with people that I trust and that I like. So it's just a non-issue. I'm not out like putting bids on the open market and taking the first bidder who's going to sell me a product at the cheapest price. You know, I'm buying good quality product from farmers that I trust, and so the quality thing it's just not an issue.
And are these guys diverting their product from a different sales stream to you, or are they just actually long, they have too much product?
Yeah, they're probably diverting a little bit, but they're long. They're for sure long. I mean, most farmers this time of year are producing too much of something. And so that's really what it comes down to. It's just, okay, well, I'm short on this. What are you long on? Okay. Maybe we can meet in the middle there somewhere. I can get some of that product. But yeah, it's kind of just they're long on it. And a lot of these growers, their primary market streams are CSAs and farmers markets. And so farmers markets get so saturated this time of year. Well, not all farmers markets, but the markets that I know in my area and my market here in Kelowna, it's so saturated in summer. So many growers. I think we've got like 50 farmers at our farmers market or something. It's ridiculous. It's just, there's so much money being spread around that people aren't doing huge days. For them, it's a guaranteed sale to sell it to me, even if, you know, they're knocking down 25% or something like that to sell it to me, but they'll sell it in one shot and it's gone. They don't need to package it or anything, you know, whereas if they want to sell carrots at $4 a pound, well, then they got to take them to the farmer's market, bag individual 1 pound bags, whereas they can sell it to me at $3 a pound and just in one big box, move it all in one shot. Same logic behind me selling to restaurants, really.
How well do the economics work out for you in terms of doing this versus growing the product yourself? I know you have to source from somebody else because you're short, but, you know, if push came to shove and you could either buy from somebody else or grow it yourself, how much of a difference actually is there in your costs, would you say?
Oh, it's huge. I would grow. I'm not making any money doing this. This isn't, I'm not turning a profit on this. Well, I might be turning a small profit. I mean, I'm not buying big enough volume to really make a profit. You know, I'm buying 30, 40 pounds here and there from farmers of, you know, 1 or 2, 3 types of products. I'd have to be turning thousands of pounds in order to be turning a profit on that, on those kind of margins, right? A 25% margin. There's no profit in it. It's more just a long game. You know, it's more just long-term thinking in that keep my customers happy, keep my foot in the door by being a constant stream for them. And it keeps the flow of capital circulating through me, even though I might be spreading it around in some other places, but it keeps it coming through me. And that's important in the sense that the restaurant market here is extremely competitive for farmers. Like, I don't suggest anybody come to Kelowna and go, oh yeah, I'm going to get a piece of that action. It's extremely competitive. There's demand for the growers that are providing, that have built the reputation that they have. And there's growers that have been selling to some of these restaurants far longer than I have. And they have strong demand because they have that connection and they want their product. It's not like it's just a wide open thing. Come on in and get a piece of the action, because you'll be competing with me, and you're competing with a few other people that I've trained over the years that are also really badass farmers. So it's very, very competitive. Fortunately, a lot of the young farmers we're not out stepping on each other's toes. But there are a few pretty cutthroat growers out here that are going in and aggressively trying to take your customers. So I'm fortunate that I haven't had to play that game. And yeah, customers have come and gone for me. I let a few customers go this year from last year, or I didn't. Not that I let them go, is I just stopped calling them, or some people stopped calling me. I mean, there's an ebb and flow to the whole thing.
Here's a question based on that and kind of some stuff that you're saying. How much do you think your restaurant customers value dealing with you versus if somebody came in aggressively undercutting your pricing? How easily could they be swayed to go towards a cheaper product, assuming that the quality is relatively the same?
That's a really good question. I mean, just like any marketplace, and we talked about this a bit before in the past, is that, the marketplace is such a diverse ecosystem. It's so complex. It's hard to answer that question because every customer is different. I definitely have, I would say, 5 of my customers, and probably my biggest spending customers, I have such close relationships with them that in the case of that happening, and it has before, they let me know. I've gotten a call say, hey, just so you know, so-and-so is coming out and offering this price. What do you think of that? Or whatever.
What do you do in a case like that?
You make it work. In most cases, actually, I've never been undercut by price. The reason for that, or at least to my knowledge, it's totally possible that I have, without my knowledge, but I haven't had a lot of customers that have left. Most of the main restaurant customers I've built from the beginning have stayed with me for going on 6 years. Definitely been a couple that have come and gone. I've definitely gained more than I've lost, that's for sure. I have the ability, because my farm operates at such a low overhead, I have the ability to be more competitive with prices than most other growers. I could say that with absolute confidence. I know I don't have the overhead that most other farmers do. I don't have to travel as far. Most of my customers are within a biking range. I do 80%. I do like 90% of my deliveries for my farm by bicycle, because most of them are downtown. I do a couple wineries, a little outside of town, but that's about it. And I know that if it came down to, an aggressive price war, if I had to play that game, I would. I don't see that happening though, because prices aren't going down, prices are going up. So that's not really happening. But what has happened on my end is that my prices have just stayed the same. I haven't changed my prices in years. In fact, on some things they've gone down. On maybe a couple of things they've gone up a little bit, just based on supply and demand. But for the most part, they've been pretty static for 6 years.
Some of the restaurant customers that you've had for 6 years, what's been the key to maintaining those relationships over time? Are there certain things you always try and do to keep that relationship vibrant versus just showing up, giving them the product, collect the money, and say, see ya?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of personal stuff involved in these relationships. I mean, really, for the most part, what it is just staying in constant connection, and that requires work. You can't just send out a fresh sheet every week and expect that to happen, because, like I said, the restaurant market is competitive. So if it's not necessarily in the organic scene, it's not necessarily about prices. It's more just about service. It's more like who's more convenient, who's willing to deliver more, who's willing to offer the products that I need. That's more what it is.
Well, earlier you mentioned that you wouldn't want to come into Kelowna and try and compete in this restaurant market because it's so competitive. If you were going into a new area, a new city, Seattle, Vancouver, whatever, and you wanted to get involved into a competitive restaurant market, how would you try and break into that market and gain a foothold?
There'd be a few different stages to that process. The first thing I would do is assess the marketplace first. Like, I'd figure out if there was actually a niche and if it was actually worth pursuing that geographical region, whatever we're talking about here, this customer base or whatever. If I assessed that it was worth pursuing, then my next course of action would be to assess who the other major players in the scene are. Who are the other farmers that are providing restaurants, and do my best to kind of work with them and not against them. Do my best to kind of find a niche that some of them aren't providing. Do that by talking to farmers specifically, but also do that by talking to the restaurants and asking them as well. And, I'm not adverse to competition. I think competition's good because I think competition keeps prices realistic. Competition is one of these price signals that, tell you if the prices are reasonable or not. And I think healthy competition is a good thing. But I definitely do want to go the path of least resistance. I don't want to go in and just fight and get into that whole thing. And especially when I consider farmers to be my allies and my friends and mentors and comrades or whatever. I don't want to compete too much, but, you can't avoid it to some degree. But it really just comes down to just assessing what's possible, what's there. And I wouldn't hesitate to relocate or try something different if I assessed that the market was too saturated. And that's the thing that I often see, when I go and do lectures, when I do my urban farming workshop in various places around the States, people are like, what about this place? Have you thought about going here? And, a lot of people think that they should just go to the hub of urban ag. Like, let's go to San Francisco, or let's go to Vancouver or Portland, or not, actually I'm not sure Portland's a hub for urban ag, or let's move to Detroit. Let's go to the dystopia and be the urban farm homesteaders. And, people always have these romantic ideas of the best place to go, but I always tell them the best place to go is the town that nobody's doing it. Like, go and be the frontiersman. Go and be the first mover. Make sure that there's a demand. Make sure that there's an interest in it. But think about how many medium-sized towns there are in America. I was actually looking at this online the other day because it's a piece that I'm putting in my book. And just about, like, what is the ideal town? What's the ideal size town? And there's so many towns in the U.S. that are between 50 and 150,000 people. So many. And those, in my opinion, those are the most ideal sized towns for urban farming, because you have lots, like, you have access to land, because the lots are a good size. Like, you've got homes with yards that are like, you've got, say, 4,000 square feet. You might have 2,000 square feet in the front and back. You've got like an eighth of an acre on average on a lot of these homes. And so, whereas if you go to a place like San Francisco, or even in San Diego proper, or LA, or any of the bigger cities, you don't get those kind of lots. And if you go to a place like New York City and you want to do something like Brooklyn Grange or something, you're going to get a rooftop type thing, and that's amazing, but that's a huge cost. So you go to these medium-sized towns all across the U.S., and there's just tons of land. And if there's a demand for the stuff, then, hey, it's pretty easy to get into it.
I think that's a good point, because I think a lot of people get caught in this situation of, I want to be a farmer, and the location where they're at may already be saturated. So then you're trying to compete, which can be tough, when a better option, not a guaranteed better option, but what could be a better option would be to move somewhere else where there's potentially more demand. But that's tricky for people. It's not an easy thing to just say, hey, I want to go move and take that on, When you're trying to assess market demand, how easy do you think it is to talk to restaurants? I think some people would think, I'm going to bug the restaurants, or chefs are a pain in the ass. Like, how would you go into a restaurant in a different area where you didn't know anybody and really say, I'm looking to serve you, how can I help?
You do a lot of preliminary work first. Like, use a program like Yelp. Yelp is a great app. And search for restaurants that advertise if they're local, or they're field to fork, or farm to table, or whatever the buzzwords are. Find and make a comprehensive list in your area of what are all the restaurants that are into that. And then, go on their website, do a little bit of research, just find out more about them. Look at their, a lot of these restaurants will put their menu on their website. Look at their menu, see what they're serving. Make a phone call. Pretend to be an overzealous customer, and just ask some questions. Like, I don't know if our listeners seen that show Portlandia, where they have the couple that go into the restaurant. They're asking about the chicken. Where did the chicken come from? How is it raised? Just be an overzealous customer and just ask where their food's coming from. Because if they're a foodie restaurant, they're probably used to that stuff anyways. And so whoever's answering the phone is going to have a bunch of sound bites on what their answers are. So you can find out a lot of information pretty quickly. And then from there, then it'll probably come time to go in to the restaurant. The best time to go into a restaurant is when it's not busy. So if it's a dinner restaurant, don't go at dinner time. Don't go during the major part of their prep. Go in the early part of the day. Even call ahead and ask what's a good time to come in and talk to the chef, or just, some restaurants are more are better suited to popping in than others. But the thing is, you have to realize is that, especially once you get into the higher end restaurants, or restaurants that have big kitchens where there's like a pretty big hierarchy of kitchen staff, executive chefs are very busy, and they don't necessarily want to be bothered unannounced. So in those kind of situations, it's definitely a good idea to call and be polite.
Say you talk to one of those restaurants and they say, we're currently getting a lot of our stuff sourced from ABC Farm, but that farm doesn't provide us with what you would consider low value crops, something like, let's just say, cabbage. Do you think it's worth, as a new farmer, trying to grow that and supply them just so you can start that relationship and get it going, even though from the start it's probably not the most economic thing that you could be growing, but you're kind of taking a short-term hit to get the relationship started?
Maybe in that specific case you're talking, I would say no, especially if it means you're going to plant some crop that you didn't even really plan on planting anyways, and it's a low-value crop. It needs to take up a lot of land, has a long seasonality. No, I would say no. But at the same time, not everybody that's even listening to this show has to be an urban farmer. Not everybody has to do things the way that I do them. I think, farmers need to grow low-value crops. People need to grow cauliflower and broccoli and cabbage and pole beans and things like that. But you need to have more land to do those things. And so if you have the land and you're going to grow that stuff anyways, you're going to market it through a farmer's market, or maybe you're part of a CSA or something, then I would say, yeah, grow those things and try to market them to restaurants if you can get some interactions going with them. But I see a lot of new farmers, they kind of they throw all their eggs into one basket. They kind of get really hung up over like, the potential of this new restaurant that wants to buy their stuff. Like they kind of invest too much in the relationship, almost like, I can even imagine myself being like a young teenage boy, some cute girl in high school. You think you got a look from her and you think she likes you, but you're not sure. In reality, she probably has like every other guy chasing after her. And so you're just kind of like, your chances are pretty slim, but you get so jacked up about it and you put so much into it and you so much you've invested so much of your emotion into it, and then when you realize that she wants to just date the big jock at high school, you're just like so bummed out and depressed. So, it's just like, well, just don't put too much into it. Keep fishing around. Make sure you talk to a lot of chefs and don't get so wrapped up in one potential customer.
Have you found certain things that really resonate with chefs? So you don't want to lie to them. You want to tell them the truth, but you can craft the story in a way that gives them the most of what they want to hear.
Yeah, I think the key to good relationships with restaurants is no different than the key to good relationships with any person in businesses. If you go in there and all you do is talk about yourself, they're not going to be very interested in you. It's good to go in there and actually have a genuine interest in what they're doing and having a genuine interest in how you can service them. So your story can be compelling to a restaurateur if your story is part of how you can service them really well. Case in point, my story as an urban farmer ties into how I can service chefs really well because I'm in the city. I'm blocks away from most of my restaurant customers. And if they need a top up midweek, I deliver twice a week in the summer, but if they need a top up at any other time in the week, they can just text me and send somebody over here to pick it up. And it's a 5-minute bike ride or a 2-minute drive, so part of what I'm offering them is extreme convenience. So if it's relevant, then yeah. But I think a lot of people, especially today, because foodie culture is becoming really trendy, some farmers think that like they're God's gift to the food industry, and they go in there and think that they're all that, and then when it actually comes time to providing good value, good service, and a good product, sometimes it's a lot of talk. And so you have to make sure that you are meeting all of the things that you should meet. This isn't like, we're not rock stars yet, we're not like Gene Simmons going in and, everybody wants to kiss your ring. It's not like that. It's extremely competitive. So always know that there's always somebody out there doing it better than you. And the minute you think that you're all that and that you've got it all worked out, then that's the perfect time that some other young new farmer or maybe some old school farmer is going to come in and take away your market share. So you got to stay on the ball.
Yeah, I like that stand on the ball, and I like the whole idea of not putting all your eggs into one basket. And I think that goes to anything, relationships included. And from hearing you talk, I come up with a few things of when you're dealing with the restaurants, all these things are important, not just one over the other. Price, the quality of your product, the convenience of your product, who they're actually dealing with when they get the product, the story behind your product. Maybe there's others, but it's like you can't just weight it on price. Like you can't just go in saying, I'm going to compete on price, or you can't just go in saying, I'm going to give the best quality product. You kind of have to hit all those things, and that'll make you easier to deal with overall.
Oh, yeah, because it isn't all about price. It is for some places. I have a variety of customers. I sell to some extremely high-end places where price is not an object at all. So, but what they're looking for is like extreme quality and also really good customer service. People in the restaurant industry are already dealing with a lot of big egos. The last thing they want to deal with is a farmer with a big ego who's hard to deal with, who's annoying, is a prima donna or whatever. Like, then you're gone. Like, forget about it. We got this guy here called, I'll just say he's the tomato Nazi. And, this guy grows these incredible heirloom tomatoes and sells them at prices that are just out of this world. Like almost double what I would charge. But he's just super, hard to deal with. He gets mad at chefs who aren't using his tomatoes in a certain way, and a lot of the, especially the younger chefs, are just like, I don't want to deal with this guy. This guy's annoying. He's an asshole. So, yeah, it's definitely a variety of things. But some people might have more than others. Because not everybody has the strongest personality, but they might have a great product and they might have good customer service. Or they might have a bit more of one than the other, and that's okay. It's just the key is you got to have. It's not just about a great product or a great story. It's about all these things.
Well, with that guy, the Tomato Nazi, he's selling his for 2 times what you are. What's he doing to be able to get that price?
Taking them out of town for the most part. I know that.
Meaning he's selling outside of Kelowna?
Oh yeah. He's taking them to places that don't have access to these kind of tomatoes. I don't know. I think he's probably lost a lot of market share in the last little while because of a lot of young farmers coming online. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's this old guard that's just going to hold down the fort, because the restaurant industry has such high turnover that you've always got this new blood coming in. And yes, there are some restaurants where the executive chef has been there for 15, 20 years. But you've got all these new people coming in and climbing the ranks. And so there isn't really this old guard. I've seen it a little bit, but not much. There's enough turnover that things stay relatively fresh.
When you drop off product to the restaurants, do you actively try and get feedback on how the last batch was, or are you trying to collect any information each time, or did they pretty much just give it to you?
Every time. I'm always digging for feedback. And you have to do that. Here's the deal. Most people don't want confrontation. And we talked a little bit about this in a previous episode when we were talking about farmers markets. And I was talking about when a customer comes and complains or something like that. I see that as an opportunity because most people wouldn't give you that opportunity. Most people would just, if you screwed them over, or not that you screwed them over, but if they thought you screwed them over and the product wasn't nice, there was a mistake on the invoice or whatever, most people would just not call you again. And that is the case. In my experience, that's the case. So you have to dig around. When I get a new customer, and I've taken on a few new customers this year, one of them, they've become like immediately one of my top customers. Every delivery is like close to $1,000. It's checking in constantly because I haven't built the personal rapport with them over the years, right? Like I don't know them to the level where like some of my customers that I've had for years, if there was a mistake in something, they'll tell me. And they do that because they care about our relationship. Whereas a new customer, if they don't know you and they don't know you personally, and from their end it looks like you might have screwed them over, they're going to assume that you screwed them over and they're just not going to call you again. And so that's what you don't want. So you want to create an atmosphere where you are always welcoming criticism. Always welcoming and thanking them for criticizing your product, criticizing anything. Anytime somebody comes in with a concern, hey, the delivery times aren't really working out, or hey, the price on this is not really that great, or the product wasn't that great, or whatever it is, you welcome that with enthusiasm, and you don't create an air of defensive-ness or being condescending or angry. It's like, oh, really? Please tell me more, and thank you. Thank you for telling me this. We're going to do our best to make sure that that's fixed. And, things like, hey, you know what? Let's just, we'll take some money off that last invoice, or we'll give you that last delivery for free, or whatever it is. It's like always going out of your way. And again, this is nothing new. This is just stuff that I've mined from other businesses. Like I had a lot of mentors outside of farming, and a lot of the stuff I've learned came from them. Very little of it actually came from other farmers. But it's just, you know, I want to say it's common sense, but common sense is the least common of all senses I've discovered. But it's just being a nice person, just being easy to deal with, and always make them feel comfortable to bring things forward, because I'm in it for the long game, right? Like, if I got a new customer that's going to spend $1,000 a month or $1,000 a week, I want that customer for the next 10 years. I want that customer as long as I'm in business. So, you know, to be a tightwad on some stupid little mistake, you know, they complain about something, even if you thought that they were wrong. And, you know, that's where this whole customer is always right kind of thing comes from, is it's not about just, them being right for the sake of them being right. It's them being right because that helps you. So this customer's going to spend $1,000 a week, and I, you know, get all defensive and angry about something that they bring up, and then I lose that customer. I lose, right? They don't lose anything. Another farmer or food provider is going to step into those shoes immediately. So I lose. That's why the customer is always right. Because if they aren't always right, then you, as the service provider or farmer, you lose. So there's no gain in you know, arguing with them or anything like this about product.
You're totally right, and I think it's only going to help you also with your other customers, because maybe some other customers are having similar issues and they're just not voicing it. And you're getting feedback from people all in the same trade. They're all chefs, they're all restaurants, and if one customer expresses, hey, you know, I noticed this about your greens, well, that just pushes you to fix that problem and deliver better quality greens to everyone as a whole.
Absolutely. And that's what I do. Like, if I get a customer, like we had some spiders in our greens this summer, because the spider population here is like, it's insane. There's spiders everywhere. Anyways, they end up in the greens sometimes. And, you know, I had one customer mention it, and so I mentioned it to other customers. Have you seen this? You know, we had one customer mention this. Have you seen this? Okay, you know, because then I can figure out, okay, so if I had a couple customers experience this, well, then it's possible that others have as well, and so this is something that needs to be looked into further on our end. What can we do to make sure this happens less? I mean, when you're growing organic product, I mean, it kind of comes with the territory to some degree, because, you know, we wash our greens when we need to, but, you know, they understand those kind of things, but you still want it to show that you care, that you're concerned about this, and you're going to do whatever you can to make sure that it doesn't happen again, or that you mitigate the problem.
Yeah, I love this whole idea of customer service and how you're approaching it, because I think it's one of these things where it's like, approach it as the customer for life, and try and always have that customer, because one of the hardest things in business is to acquire new customers. It's a lot less expensive to keep existing customers, and it's easier to sell more product to existing customers than it is to go out and get new customers. So you're not somebody who's in the infomercial business trying to sell some crap to somebody who's going to buy it one time on an impulse buy and you never talk to them again. You're in the same community as these people, and you're dealing with them all the time. And even if you're not selling to them, you're probably going to run across them. So that also incentivizes you to provide good service.
Yes, absolutely. Because I mean, yeah, this is a relationship business entirely. So yeah, those relationships got to be there. You know, I mean, one thing I do too that I'm not sure other farmers do as much, or maybe they do, but I'm super savvy on text messages. Like, I send out my fresh sheet every Monday, and you know, we put in our fresh sheet, you know, have your order in. If you want stuff for Friday, have your order in by Thursday morning. If you want stuff by Tuesday morning, have your stuff in by Monday. And if I don't get somebody's order, I'm texting them or I'm phoning them. Usually I'm texting. Texting's easier. More people are kind of tech savvy these days than phone savvy. So I'm texting things. Like, I've got some customers that are so steady that if I don't hear from them, I'll just send them a text and say, hey, so and so, same order as last week, question mark, like just brief kind of things. And if they're really busy, it's just like, yes, that's it, So, whereas some other chefs say to me, bring this to me as a standing order every week. Don't bring this to me only if you hear from me. So it's like, okay, that's easy. But you've got to like go a little bit above and beyond just the regular channels.
Here's a question that may sound overly basic to some people, but how do you specifically solicit feedback on your product? Because you can say, how did you like the tomatoes? Or were the tomatoes good? And they can just say, yeah. And it's like when you're a kid and your dad asked you how was school and you're like, good. You get a crappy answer because you asked a crappy question. So what specifically are you asking to try and get the answers that you want that are actually meaningful and that you can do something with?
Well, I'm always trying to figure out how they're using the product. Especially like right now we're just everything's pumping. Like we're at peak season, and we've got everything that can be coming off the farm is coming off the farm. And so with tomatoes, we've got a number of varieties and new varieties we've tried this year. And so it's a lot of trying to solicit feedback on that. Like, hey, what do you think about this variety? How are you using this? How do you like the taste? What's the texture like? How's the shelf life been? Really specific questions about these kind of things. I like to see how the product's being used. And I mean, I've created, I have a pretty personal rapport with chefs that they tell me, like that, we talk about these things. Like I go in, this is why I always give myself extra time to deliver. When I go into restaurants, especially the customers that I've worked with for a long time, I'm sometimes in there for half an hour shooting the breeze. Some of my, one of my oldest customers, which is this winery, the executive chef has his own office. Sometimes I go in there and I bullshit him for half an hour. And we're just talking about all kinds of stuff, personal stuff, restaurant stuff, farm stuff, whatever it is. It's relationships, right? And so at the end of the day, it isn't always just business. A lot of it is to do with just being personal and building these friendships.
That's really cool how you've grown your restaurant customer base over the years. With that growth, do you think there's more room to grow ahead in terms of restaurants?
Yeah, we do. What I'm more interested in doing is getting, like what you said, actually, is getting more value to the customers that I already have. But I definitely do want to take on new customers. In fact, I've had a lot of restaurants call me this year, but I just don't have enough stuff for them. Some people call me and they say, can I get a call? Can you add me to your weekly fresh sheet? And it's like, well, I can, but I can only guarantee you a couple of those items because I first have to make sure that the customers that I've been with that have supported me for the last 6 years, that they get their standing orders each week. And so, that's been the challenge this year is that, I've got a lot of new people asking me for things that I know I just don't have enough of because I'm sold out every week. That's definitely, those are good signals for me to say, hey, I can expand this production on certain items. And so that's something I'm going to be looking at next year for sure.
In terms of delivering more value to the customers that you have, do you have a sense of how much veg your current restaurant customers are buying that you're not supplying?
Oh God, it depends on the restaurant and depends on the kind of stuff they sell.
Where I'm going with that is, it's like you're selling them baby root vegetables, tomatoes, greens, microgreens. How do you then say, I want to sell them more. And because now you got to try and identify the extra product that you're going to bring to them. And it's probably something that you can move a lot of volume of. But then you also have to look and say, okay, I have to be able to produce this on the farm within the current farm setup that I have. So how do you, I guess the first step is how do you try and identify how you can give them more value in terms of selling them something different? And then how do you go back and reverse engineer into how you're going to fit that into the farm?
Well, it's one thing right off the bat is I don't try to be a one-stop shop because I know that I'm not. If I wanted to be a one-stop shop, then I'd have to be growing potatoes and winter squash and fruit and all these kind of things that I don't want to grow. So I can't be a one-stop shop. I can diversify in the categories of products that I grow by growing more varieties and offer a bit more diversity in there. But it's kind of a tricky question because I don't, I know that a lot of my restaurant customers buy from other farmers. Like I've got one customer who they probably spend $10,000 a week on farmers, local farmers, and I might be a tenth of that. So yes, I can grow more of certain things that I know I'm short on them for each week, or things that I'm sourcing from other growers. I can definitely scale those up. But I'm not going to start growing cabbage and broccoli to offer more value to that customer. And at that point, it's like, I've probably done as much as I can there, but I am always interested in trying new things if they fit within the framework of my farm, which is, I focus on, I say to people, like, we're a small farm, we grow small veg. We try to grow small vegetables and things that are compact. And so, if it works within the framework of that, I'm always interested in trying new things. But, no, I'm not gonna start leasing orchards and, getting into like all kinds of things that I know that I'd have to totally relearn to do.
So it'd be just different greens, potentially different tomatoes, maybe different root vegetables. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Different herbs. I want to get into growing strawberries. That's one kind of fruit that I'll probably get into more of, doing some vertical strawberry towers. Things that I can do urban, because I am an urban farm and I don't want to change that. I like being an urban farmer. I like farming on a small land base. I like riding my bike, to all of my plots to do most of the day-to-day things that we need to do. I don't really want to change that, and I don't think we need to because this model is working well for us.
To go back to where we started this whole episode with, you're sourcing a lot of products from other farmers now. Knowing that, are you going to look to add more land in the off season, or is the fact that you're sourcing product from other farmers now okay because it's just such a short period of time?
Yeah, I definitely want to find more land. But yeah, not now, like for the winter. I mean, we're prepping up one addition to a plot. We talked about this before a few episodes ago. I wouldn't mind taking on another plot or two if they were in my neighborhood. No, I'm done with rapid expansion. I definitely have tried that, and I don't enjoy the stress of that lifestyle. So, having said that, I do have a guy on my team right now who is incredibly capable, and I see the possibility of expanding more than I have in the past, because the thing with expanding is trust. If you're planning to expand and it's all just means that you are now going to work more and you are going to take on more responsibility, well then forget that. I already got enough of that going on. So you've got to have the trust with some people that you think will go for it with you, and they're willing to take on a little bit more responsibility, and you can spread that time and responsibility around, then it looks a lot more feasible.
And do you view sourcing from other farmers kind of just part of the business? At times you're gonna have to do that.
Yeah, and I've thought, sometimes I get the thought that maybe I could just aggregate stuff. like more of it. But the margins are just not really there. And in order for me to let's say I wanted to add $10,000 of revenue to the farm for a season to aggregate product, that's a lot of product I got to handle. And in order to handle that much extra product, and I'm speaking specifically because of the margins, because I'm buying from other local farmers that I want to give a fair price to. Because frankly, if I don't give them a fair price for it, they're going to sell it and get a fair price for it somewhere. They're going to find that price. So, I can't it's not like I can go and just source some, California or Mexican produce, buy it for 45 cents and sell it for $4 a pound up here. I can't really do that. I probably technically could, but that's not what I'm doing. That's not my thing. So based on the economics of, cause I've looked at this before, we ran a CSA one year where we were sourcing from other farmers. The value wasn't in the markup we made on the product. The value was in, it allowed us to engage a wider customer base and by offering more products. And so because we could engage a wider customer base, it allowed us to sell more of the high value products that we grew on the farm. And that's where it was. So it wasn't about a profit on the product. It was about more numbers of customers to sell more of our high value products. So, when we did that year, it was really only worth about, I think, somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000 of profit that was made on that product for a ton of product. And so it's hardly worth it because I got to considerably expand my walk-in cooler, my cold storage, my processing facilities, or at least my packing facilities. And it's just not really worth the investment. It's only worth the investment if I want to just go full out with it. If I want to be an aggregator and buy, flip, say, $1 million of product a year and maybe make 25% on that, then it would be worth it. But to do it at this scale, it's not really worth it as a profit-seeking endeavor. It's more just to keep my customers happy and keep the capital flowing through my direction, and I'm controlling where it's going and choosing who to spread it around to. That's really all it is. And helping some other farmers, it's just kind of win-win. It's like, well, I got some extra stuff to sell, or I've got extra demand, so I might as well just help these other farmers that I know have extra stuff and sell their stuff for them.
It's a great point. I think to know when enough is really important. Bigger is not always better because, as you said, the margins, if they're not there, you're taking on a lot of extra work, a lot of extra headache for potentially not a lot of extra dollars, and it may just be worth not even doing that at all, and you'll be better off overall at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it just there's some businesses that are just better suited to that than a farm. I run this tiny urban farm. It's 1/3 of an acre. I have 5 plots. Most of our work is done at my house. My lot is 1/4 acre. I've got a house that occupies maybe 1/3 of that land. We have our processing facilities here, our portioning facilities, walk-in coolers, all that kind of stuff here. In order for me to turn into an aggregator business model, I could no longer do it outside of my house. I'd have to rent a warehouse space. I would need to have some pretty big infrastructure to do that. And I know that I sell to a great business here called Urban Harvest. A couple of wonderful people that I've known for many years that have an awesome business model, and they do a great job supporting local farmers in the area. But that's their thing. That's their niche. And they have the infrastructure, they have the trucks, they have the staff to do that. So it's why get into that when they already have it set up? There's probably more market share for others to do that kind of thing too, but I'm not so sure doing it as a farm is the best for here specifically. I think in general, it's a great model. I mean, I've written about this in the book, and we talk about it in our online course. To be a broker / farmer is a great business model. It's just, it's not something I want to do exclusively here because just there's already some of that happening.
Yeah, you can't do it all. Do what you do well and crush that. And like you said, other people may be set up to better take on things that you can't do.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Urban Farmer. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.